Hello, this presentation is all about the Advanced Higher Course Specification. It's about looking exactly of what the teachers have to use to create the resources that you need to know what you have to teach for the exam. Now, what you can see here is a couple of things. The course code there, that's what you need for your UCAS applications. Always good to know. And you can see the valid is 19 to 20. This is the most up-to-date version. Now, the key bit for us is the bit a little further down. And this talks all about what potentially could come up in the exam of what you need to be able to have studied. Now, a couple of key things. It says in topics A to C, we do B and C. Candidates use a comparative approach to analyse and evaluate similarities and differences between the UK, including Scotland, because we're allowed to talk about Scotland different from the UK, and other international countries. And it says candidates have the flexibility in the international countries to choose to compare with the UK. Now, a lot of you will probably focus on the USA. However, we will talk about Scandinavian countries, especially for prisons, but we'll also look at things to do with Russia, France, Germany, and some of the other southeastern nations, for example, like the Philippines, and some African countries as well. It's always good to have a very broad range of countries to evaluate and say how they're similar or different. Now, it says here in topic D, which everyone has to do, we study social science research methods and issues. Relevant case studies and examples are used, but we'll look at that in a little minute. Now, going down, you can see potentially your question for this section could be any of these three. So it's looking at definitions, measurements, and perceptions of crime. Now, that obviously won't be a 30-mark question by itself. That will then link into one of the next two bullet points, which is all about the relevant theories of criminal behaviour. Why does it happen? Now, looking at this is generally focused around the idea of the nature versus nurture debate. Is it biology or is it something else? But, as you can see here, sociological theories, another factor that we also bring in is societal theories, because that kind of fits into there as well. So that looks at not only alcohol, but also looks at gender, age, geography as well. The second question, potentially, that you could have in this section is actually the impact of criminal behaviour on victims. So it could be the victims themselves, so that could be like physical, psychological, financial. Same with the perpetrators, or the person that's committed the crime. Now, families is a strange one, because families could in theory be the families of the victims, or families of the perpetrators, or it could be families who are in the wider society. But we'll come into that when we look at that impact part. And the wider society is obviously local communities, the country itself, and internationally as well. So that is your two questions that you could potentially be asked for one of the bits in the exam. So it's either causes of crime or impacts of crime. In the second section, we look at this area here. Now, what you can see talks about theories of punishment, things like when we actually put them to prison or we give them a non-custodial sentence. What is the purpose of it? Okay, does it fit into one of these? Are they less likely to commit crime? Are they likely to be rehabilitated, for example? Is it less likely to make them do it? And that's why we can bring in things like the death penalty of the USA, and you might think about the Philippines with their death squads and things, where the people are not think actually punishment might actually stop it. Now, you also have preventative responses to crime. So you're looking at policing strategies. So the updated one, for example, in London, where they were no longer able to go after people on mopeds without helmets on. Now they're allowed to do soft bashing, which means they'll be able to take them down. But again, if they haven't got a helmet on, they're allowed to take them down. Also, multi-agency approaches and early intervention. So that's looking at the idea of international ones like Interpol, or potentially looking at early interventions. You can even talk about the children's hearing systems and stuff, about trying to stop it. Now, and also criminal justice system responses to crime. So prison works, prison doesn't work. So that's the area for this one. Now, this one is a much more layered approach because all of them will actually fit into themselves. This one here, you can bring in the theories to do with basically the impact. However, this one is much more one that multi-layered where they all interlink. So that question is actually slightly easier, although most people think it's harder. The second section, where the 15-mark questions are, as you've seen, is the research methodology. And in this, it tells you basically, when we're looking at the analysis, evaluation, and comparisons of research methods. These are the ones we have to have done. We have to have done official statistics, surveys, interviews, focus groups, observation, covert and overt. So we're looking at things like Howard Parker, Ross Kemp, case studies, and longitudinal studies. Things that are much longer in the sense that we've got more evidence. And we'll look at some Harvard stuff there. Now, you'll look at the positives and negatives and about how they're better than others for certain aspects. And then the last question, which is the 15 mark, when you have a question about the source evaluation, you have to be able to talk about all of these different ideas about what they're doing. Now, you will see that actually some of them actually link back into what you've learned in the research method. There's a lot of overlap there, which makes it much easier for the source evaluation question. And actually, generally people do better in that question than they do in the question before. However, it's not a huge amount of difference, but I just thought I'd show you this because this is where we're teaching from. Just so we're absolutely clear, this is our Bible in a sense. Anything in this document can be assessed in the final exam. Thank you.